Good morning. Welcome to Freeway Bible Study. This is July 5th, day after Independence Day, here in the United States. And my name is Kurt. I'll be your host for this chapter of Exodus 5. I don't believe in God, but I do enjoy studying the Bible. So let's begin. So in Exodus, we continue to follow the story of Moses. Moses is now back in Egypt. He's with his brother Aaron, and in Exodus 4, he spoke. Moses is really the kind of acting in place of God, telling Aaron what to say. Aaron then uses his eloquence to speak to the leaders of the Israelites, the Israelite elders, and then to Pharaoh. And Moses also performs his magic tricks with his staff and his hand and the ability to turn water into blood. And he does these things before the elders of the Israelites, who then agree to go with Moses to speak to Pharaoh to ask to have the people let go. So, and they do that. In Exodus 5, they go directly to Pharaoh, and Moses asks that Pharaoh, or Aaron asks on behalf of Moses, who is speaking on behalf of God, that they let the people go for 3 days into the wilderness to worship God, their God. Pharaoh, which is apparently a common practice at that time. People would, throughout Mesopotamia, the Phoenicians, even the Egyptians would take holidays to worship deities, and typically that would be done at the deity's home. Now we know that Yahweh is a mountain god, so that the people need to travel to the mountain. Does that mean it took 3 days to get there? That seems like a short amount of time, especially if you're thinking that 2 to 4 million people. That seems like a really short time. Seems like you need some logistics some time to even prepare for that journey. Anyway, but that's a moot point because Pharaoh says no. Pharaoh, he doesn't just say no, he says no with a vengeance. Like, I don't know this God. Who am I? Why would I let you go to this? Heck no. And then he tasks the overseers. Well, there's 3 levels in the hierarchy of the Egyptian slaves. There's the slaves themselves. Then there's their Israelite overseers. Think the kind of like not the wardens, but what do you call them in the prison? The trusted inmates who look over the other inmates. I can't remember that term, but that's the overseers are. And then there are the slave drivers, the slave masters, who are the Egyptians. And Pharaoh tasks the slave masters. He says, okay, clearly these people have more time on their hands than they should, because they're thinking of going away to the mountains to worship their God. So let's give them more work so they have less time to dawdle around and think and come up with such schemes. He says, here's what you'll do. Keep the quota for the number of bricks they need to create each day the same, but give them no more straw. Let them go forage for the straw in the fields, wherever they can find it. So they still have to make the same number of bricks, but they're not going to give them one of the essential ingredients. For straw holds the bricks together. The bricks will fall apart and they can't make their quota. And it looks like the quota for a man making brick was something like 100 or 150 bricks a day based on some Egyptian records. So it would be hard to make your quota. It was hard to make it in one day to do that. It would be especially hard to do that if you didn't have the materials if your bricks were falling apart. Imagine you spent 5 minutes trying to form a brick without straw, and it just falls to pieces, and you have to start over. So they're doing that, and now they're not able to make their quota, and the overseers and the slave drivers, beat the Egyptians, and of course the overseers are beaten by the slave masters. So it's not a good thing, and so they complain. The slaves and the slave overseers complain, about their lot. Why is this? And they actually go to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh tells them it's because you've got too much time on your hands, and I want you to work hard and to get to it and keep your quota up. And on their way out from meeting Pharaoh, the overseers run across Moses and Aaron, who ask them how things are going, and they say, "Not well. What have you done to us? We're screwed. Pharaoh's, going to put us to the sword." It actually says something like that at the end. You put the sword in Pharaoh's hands. That's the end of the chapter. It's pretty short. Not a lot to say. Not even. I've added the reading of a Jewish rabbinical scholarship to my studies, and even the Jewish medieval scholar Rashi had nothing at all to say about this chapter. Not very interesting. So, it's interesting. It's an important piece. It's a link in the chain. You need the link, but overall, not seemingly a lot to talk about. So I'll go back just a bit to the previous chapter about that I didn't comment on last time, was that God hardens Pharaoh's heart in Exodus 4. Meaning that he will make sure that Pharaoh fights Moses and Aaron. And the reason being that this gives God the opportunity, the pretext, and the excuse to exercise his wonders and his punishments and his miracles miracles of wrath onto the Egyptians to show his power. And this just really struck me. I'm still thinking about it. It's echoing through my mind from Exodus 4 about how God would do that. And what does that do to the concept of free will? And is God still playing such games with us at this time? Is the reason that I'm an unbeliever because God hardens my heart and makes it so that I can't see the truth. And maybe that's it for various reasons. Maybe it's in order to make this little Bible series. I don't know. But again, coming back to the point, how can you blame me or Pharaoh if God is actually stepping in and tweaking my knobs and my levers? You could say that I deserve it, right, from past sins, or Pharaoh deserves it from the sin of keeping slaves, and so it's just due. It's part of his due punishment, I guess. But again, it seems like in the current understanding of especially the Christian theology, the idea is that you have a great get out of jail free card, right? Just believe and you get to go to heaven forever. It doesn't take works, it doesn't take piety necessarily. It just takes open-hearted belief, And so if that's the case, then why not Pharaoh? Why not me? And I mean that tongue in cheek, right? Because I'm basically placing myself and Pharaoh in the worldview of the Christian and the Jewish perspective, and just imagining how that works if God is actively working against us. Whose side is he on? Well, we know that there are the chosen people, so maybe that's it. So anyway, that's it. As I go from the 5 freeway to the 55 north. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a great day and make it a good life. Bye-bye. See you next time.